everybody, and welcome back to Game Night Date Night. We're actually on episode 24, so that means we've been doing this for 2 years now, and I think that is so exciting. Game Night Date Night is in collaboration with Games and Couples, who does couple counseling utilizing board game as one of the big tools in their counseling session, or for couples to utilize at home. One of the things they've created is a rating system that will help couples determine which board games might best suit their needs. Now, keep in mind, 1 is not bad and 5 is not good. With this rating system, it really depends on where you are as a couple and what you're looking and what you need at this time. So the first thing that they rate on is the conversation and connection potential. So how much opportunity is there to have a conversation while playing the game? For some couple, this is a time where they come together at the end of the day and they're looking for something on the higher side here. Or maybe things have been tense and to avoid flare-ups, something that has less conversation might be better. The second thing is on getting to know you. How much will be revealed from your partner as you're playing this game? Some things, there's lots of strategy going, so you can kind of really get a sense of how they feel or how they think. Or sometimes it's a cooperative game where you're going to work together and kind of come up with solutions together. And sometimes it's I'm doing my thing, you're doing your things, and it's actually very low on this score. And the final thing that we score on is potential for hurt feelings and conflict. Let's face it. Board game, oftentimes you're competing for a winner. So depending on how the game does that, sometimes there's a lot of take that element. Will that cause flare up in the relationship, or is this a good opportunity to deal with confrontation in a controlled environment? Now, every week we do showcase a game of the week, and for the month of January, I concentrated on games that reminded me of Catan. So, Catan is a game that's done a lot in the hobby. This was published, I think, in 1998, so quite a while ago, maybe even before that. But it's in a bit of an older game that I still to this day enjoy quite a bit, and my partner Lee especially enjoy this one. So every game that I've showcased this week is a game that reminded me a little bit of Catan and its mechanism. So the first one is Plunder. So rating wise, I've given this one for communication connection potential a 3 out of 5. So in this game, you're going to be collecting resources. You're going to be trading those resources to get pirate ships or add sails to it or add cannons to it. And then you're going to go around the map battling for control of islands, or you can actually also battle the other pirate ships on the board. And very much like Catan, the first one to reach 10 points is the winner. So you will do that by having your ships. You'll do that by controlling the island. You will also get some plunder point cards that'll be worth 1 victory points as well. In the getting to know you, I'm also giving this one a 3 out of 5 because it is interesting to see what your partner is going to do. Are they going to beef up their pirate ship, or are they trying to go for more control, or are they chasing the treasure all the time? Just to see how they play the game is interesting. Hurt feelings and conflict, I'm also giving this one a 3 out of 5. It really depends on how you play the game. Every time I've played the game, it's been mostly friendly. But if you concentrate on gaining your points by taking the points away from your partner, then that kind of raises up the conflict level. And as I mentioned, you can battle each other in this game. You can take over their island that they've already collected. So there is a lot of opportunity for take that in this game for sure. This is what the box cover looks like. I mean, I honestly, personally, I like how it looks, but it's not much to look at. It's pretty bland looking. You won't get a good feel of the game just by the box cover. However, the components in this game is unreal. You have these nice, big, chunky pirate ships, and you'll have your little pirates on the back there. If you ever lose all your pirates, your ship sinks, so and it goes back into your stuff. Then you add these sails to it and the cannons, and the production of this game is just beautiful. And you have all these tiles that you put together because the board is modular. So every time you play, the map will be a little bit different, and they're double-sided, and there's 6 of them. Now, if you're playing a 2-player game, you're just going to make the board a little bit smaller, and it'll be 4 map tile instead of 6. Beautiful, beautiful game. I quite enjoy this one. And then just drawing the resources and spending these resources in different combination in order to be able to upgrade your pirate ship really reminded me of Catan. The next one I'm going to be talking about is Terra Nova. So Terra Nova is kind of like a new game that they made out as a more like a lighter version of Terra Mystica, if you've ever played that one. With Terra Nova, the first time I've played this one, it really is like, oh wow, this is Catan next level. So you still have the map, you're still putting your buildings onto the map, and like the maps have different terrains, and as the species that you select, only one terrain you can build, so you may have to terraform the land you want to build on in order for it to meet your requirements. It is a very neat game, but let's look at the rating on this one. Conversation and connection potential, I'm giving this one a 3 out of 5. It's a turn-based, so each round you're going to take turn activating one action until you have to pass and you can do no more. Either you've run out of money, you've run out of magic, which I think they're calling power in this game, and you just can't do anymore, or you choose not to, and then you would pass, and then you take all these different actions. Actions can be fairly straightforward. You can, add buildings onto the board. You can activate one of the side action that would require you to spend your power, which is your magic, in order to activate. Your money can be a little bit limiting in this. And then what's interesting as well is each character that you would play as plays it differently. In the getting to know you, I'm giving this one a 4 out of 5. I find this one definitely has a lot more strategy to it. There's a lot more you got to decide on what you want to do. So it's a lot more revealing as to how you think, how you strategize. So you can discover some interesting about your partner when playing this one. Hurt feelings and conflict, I'm really going to give this one a 1 out of 5. You are playing on the board. You're adding things. You may get into each other's way, but there's actually benefits to be next to the other players, because then when you're upgrading your building, you can do so at a discount for being near other people, because technically you have other people you can trade with. So it's supposed to help. What's really interesting with this one too is, well, I'll show you some pictures. This is the picture of the board game. So Terra Nova, I think it's a pretty neat looking cover. And it kind of shows on there the 5 different terrains that you'll find on the map. And this is a picture of the map here. So as I mentioned, each clusters of land will come into 5 different type of terrain, and each faction that you're going to play as, and then there's 5 different factions, and they're double-sided, so there's a lot of options, and you can change it up every game, and each character have their own kind of special abilities, so it's really interesting. But each one of them has a certain land assigned to them, and in order to be able to spread and build elsewhere, they need to convert the land where they want to go into their own terrain, and depending on how much of a stretch that is, so for and then I'll show you with this one here. So for the golems, they need the red land. Now if it's yellow, that's 1 terraform away to accomplish. If they needed the green, it's also 1 terraform away to accomplish. If they wanted to go under the blue land, they would have to terraform that one 2 times in order to be, so they would have to spend the resources to activate the shovel action 2 times in order for that land to become habitable for them. And then they can still then go and pay to build. So terraforming is an action, then building the building onto it is an action. What's really interesting as well with the player board that you see here is every time you put buildings onto the board, it'll reveal something underneath, and in the income phase, it'll either give you more money, it'll give you more power, sometimes it'll give you a combination of both. Now, as you upgrade as well and you replace a small settlement for like a city, then that building you replace goes back on your board and it recovers some of the stuff that you have uncovered. It is very interesting. And then the power is also very interesting. So every time you upgrade your power, you have to upgrade from the one bowl into the second bowl. And then from the second, once the one bowl is empty, you can upgrade from the second bowl to the third bowl. And it's only when you have power in the third bowl that you can start activating that power to do some of those actions. And like you want to kind of be careful as to how you do the actions, because if you're going to be intending to upgrade some of your power, but you intend to spend some as well, if you spend it first, it sends it back into the first bowl, and when you go to activate, you can't activate it to the third bowl to get more power because you have to always activate from the first bowl first. So it makes a lot more sense to upgrade your power first so you have the most power in the third bowl before you start spending. But if you wait, maybe the other player is going to activate the action you were hoping to get, and then that wouldn't be available anymore to you. This is such a neat and interesting game. I've really enjoyed every play of it. Terra Nova is just a little bit more attainable and easier to learn and play than Terra Mystica, but Terra Mystica is also an amazing game as well. The next game I had on showcase on Games and Couples is Ceylon. So this one is so interesting. Ceylon is the old name for Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka used to be a big export of coffee, and at one point they had a really bad disease go through all their coffee plantation that destroyed all the crop, and to avoid financial ruins, they've converted their crops into tea, and to this day they're still one of the biggest tea importers. And this game is all about this, and the first time I've played it, I was just blown away at how good the game was. So, conversation connection potential, I'm giving this one a 2 out of 5. There's a fair bit going on and deciding things you need to decide. And it's also one of those games where every action, everybody's doing something. So, being that it's a busier game, there's less opportunity to hold a conversation while playing it. Getting to know you, I'm giving this one a 3 out of 5. There's a lot to kind of figure out. When you do an action, you got to decide which action you want to do and which action you're going to leave for the other players. So there's a lot to decide. There's a lot of strategy behind it, but a lot of that strategy is still, you're not going to be like open about it because you're trying to, accomplish certain things without announcing what you're working on so that the other players don't get in your way. Hurt feelings and conflict, I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 5. This has a area control element to it, so you can kind of get into other people's way. There's also contracts you're trying to accomplish, and it is frustrating if you're like saving and collecting all the teas that you need in order to be able to go and do that contract, and then they beat you to it just as you get what you need. So that can happen in this game as well. This is the look of the box. I think it's a neat looking box. It's ornate, and nice bright colors. And this is the board. Now the board is very interesting. So you have the map, and then you have these cardboard pieces that you'll add to each section of the map, and then you add a single one on top of that. So there are 3 layers to the board. So base layer, if you build a plantation there and collect tea from the base, you're going to be generating black tea. If you're on the second level, then you're going to generate green tea, and if you're on the top location, you're going to generate white tea. Now if you followed, that means there's only going to be 4 spots to make white tea, so you want to make sure you get there so that you can kind of build one up. One thing that's very interesting as well, though, is you are not limited to your own plantation to generate tea. Depending on where your worker is, you can be like, okay, I'm going to activate the where you're going to gather tea action, and you get to activate that with all the plantation that you are surrounded by and kind of touching, even if they're not your own. So that's great, being that white tea could be so limiting. Every player gets their own little wooden tea leaf color, and that's where it's going to show where the plantations are, and that's going to really count on the area control side of things. And where you can see there, we have the card that's face up, and you have the action on the top and the action on the bottom. So every card has two actions, and you're going to decide which action you want to activate, and you put the card so that the top action is going to be your action. Everybody else is going to do that bottom action if they can. Sometimes they need to have resources to activate it, and if not, you can always do the middle action, which is collecting money and moving your worker. So there is no downtime. Every round you're doing something. Every district has a person associated with it, a political person associated with it, that if you create a link with them, they'll give you special abilities that you can activate in the rest of the game. And I'm not showing that on there, but at the top of the board you have different contracts you're trying to accomplish. And then on your player board you have to unlock your ability to fill contracts, and you can only do that one business at a time. So if I unlock and I can do deals with the black corporation, for say the black colored corporation, then I need to be able to build more plantation to open up the board and remove some of those wooden tea leaves so that I can now add a new business. So as long as I've got the first one, I've added the black thing, I can complete black contracts. But then if I add the second one and I add like the blue corporation, now I can also complete blue contracts as well as the black contracts, and so on. So you're trying to unlock that on your board by putting plantation onto the main board to open up more room so that you can deal with more businesses. This whole game is so cleverly designed. It is a lot of fun. I just adore it. I love the play of it. I love the look of it. And you get that, putting things out on the map very much like Catan. And then the next one that we showcased in the month of January was Catan Starfarers. So Catan has a lot of different variation. You've got Catan, you've got the Seafarers. We even have Star Trek Catan that we've played quite a few times, and that one plays very similar to Catan, but then you have the Star Trek characters in there. This one I played recently, and I thought it was an interesting spin on Catan. It changed it the most from the different variation of Catans that I've played. And with this one is you are exploring space, and you need to kind of spread out through space. So everybody starts on the same side of the board, and then you have a few of your things put up there, and you have your main base. And every time you're going to create spaceship or trading post, they're always going to send out from your main base and trying to spread across. Now you can also create a trading post that you're going to send out and eventually create another colony on a future planet. If you collect the right resources and build that, then once you've created that, you can also ship out from that new location. It is really interesting. But let's have a look at the ratings. So conversation, connection, potential, I'm giving this one a 3 out of 5. It's turn-based. While it's not your turn, definitely lots of opportunity to hold a conversation, as you're not really doing a whole lot until your turn comes along. Except Catan-wise, when they roll the dice and they activate the resources, you would still get to collect those resources. So that's still happening. On the getting to know you side, I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5. Again, you're not going to be revealing the strategy that you're trying to accomplish, but you'll be coming across encounters in this one, and you have some decisions to make. Okay, you're coming across a merchant and he wants some resources. Will you give him 1, 2, or 3 resources? And depending on how you decide what the reward will be, and then it's kind of interesting. Okay, well, enough resources, but I was hoping to build. So do you give up any of the resources? Do you hold on to them? How do you decide things? Hurt feelings and conflict, I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 5. This is mostly going to be, you're going to be in other people's way. Plus you have the trading centers where whoever has the majority of it there gets the ability to trade there, but they also get the alien species icon or token, and having that gives you extra point. But if somebody comes and takes over the majority there, then they get it. It's kind of like the longest road in regular Catan, except that there's multiple that are going to be available, so that could be taken away from you, so that can create a little bit of take that element, but it seems to be fairly low in this game. Let's have a look at the board. So this is kind of a bigger game, it's size-wise, but it's cute box cover, and this is the board. So you can see there's a rocket ship. This big honking rocket ship, everybody gets one of them. And with your resources, you can trade other than just trading station and your kind of bigger station. You can also trade your resources to add components to your rocket ship. You can add boosters, you can add lasers, you can add cargo to it, and you physically add these components onto your, so it comes like quite busy, but having lasers is going to make you more powerful if you ever get into a battle, which is going to be mostly with the encounters. You don't actually battle each other. Boosters is going to allow you to move a little bit further, and then cargo is going to allow you to be able to carry more on your ship. And then what's really interesting with it is as you come across different things, you need to shake this, and you would shake this thing and put it upside down, and on the bottom a couple of beads are going to fall in the bottom section, and depending on what color beads falls into it, the value or score that's associated to your roll, and that, as I mentioned, you would need in different encounters and such. So still very much Catan, but this is probably the Catan that to me has felt the most different, and it adds a lot of interesting element to it. Then the next game that we showcased this month was Kingdom Builder. So Kingdom Builder is an older game, but this one is pure put stuff on the map, and I quite enjoy that. So connection, conversation, potential, I'm giving this one a 3 out of 5. On your turn, you're going to have cards, and you're going to pick a card that's going to have a different terrain, and then you're going to put 3 of your little buildings on that particular terrain. Now it's going to have to touch your other buildings if it can. If it can't, then you can branch out elsewhere on the map. Being able to branch out sometimes is helpful as well, gives you more areas that you can kind of go to, but also each game's going to have different goals, and depending on the goals that are available, maybe you want to have different clusters of your buildings. So it's just really neat. You put all these things, and then you score the gold cards. You score what your building is touching. If it's touching a castle, you would get points for that. And then there's different location that if you connect to, you would gain that ability, and there's an ability that you can activate. So let's have a look at the rating on this one. Conversation, connection, potential, 3 out of 5. You're constantly putting stuff on there. You're kind of verifying what's going on, trying to figure out where you want to put again with the cards that you have. So there's a little bit of strategy to it. So you might be busy kind of trying to figure out what you want to do on your turn when your turn comes. Getting to know you, I'm giving this one a 2 out of 5 just because you're not going to be revealing what you're choosing. Because you don't want them to know which goal you're going for, so they don't block you and that they don't get in your way. Now, hurt feelings and conflict, I had put a 1 out of 5. My personal experience on this is, yes, you can get into each other's way, but there's no attack. They can't undo anything you've done onto the board, so the conflict or the take that feeling is a little bit low. But if you are trying to accomplish a goal and they purposely block you, I suppose, I haven't come across that a lot when in my games, but after I had posted this, there was a few comments about my experience was there was a lot more take that than you're letting on, but they're saying they loved it about it. That made the game more interesting for them. So this is the cover of Kingdom Builder. I think it's a beautiful cover. And the map. So the map is modular. You have different sections that you put together. And then one of the section is not used. You flip that over, and that's going to be the the scorekeeper. So every game is going to be a little bit different because it's the map's going to look differently. Every player is going to have 40 little houses of their own color that they're going to be putting out. And as I mentioned, you're going to have cards with a different terrain that's going to, like, okay, well, I'm going to activate this one. So I'm going to put 3 of my buildings onto the forest. And I'm touching forest over here, so I have to put over there, and I'm going to spread this way. So interesting. It's a very pure, simple game, as in you're just putting buildings onto a map, trying to kind of the way you control the map will give you different ways to score. So I quite enjoy that one. And that was the last game that we showcased in the month of January. So be sure to check us out on Instagram. My Instagram channel is Mel's_boardgame_room, as well as Games and Couples. We're also on Facebook at Mel's Board Game Room, and also Games and Couples Love in the Age of Board Game. And the YouTube channels. My YouTube channel is Mel's Board Game Room, and we also have Games and Couples Love in the Age of Board Game. Bye, everybody.